Hello and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV walk-along. This time we are heading all the way from Eulmore to the Crystarium. I decided to start on the outside in Gatetown as I feel this is quite a large part of Eulmore's history, and even after the absence of the flood, still has its own troubles. After the story events of Shadowbringers, if you come back to here, everyone has new dialogue for the most part, and you'll learn that there's still a lot of animosity between those who live in Eulmore and those who are still in Gatetown. Talking to various people, both in and out, you'll learn that they intend to migrate everyone into better living conditions in Eulmore proper. But just as real life immigration, there comes with it a lot of tribulation and resources required in order to make something like this fully come to life. As you pass through here, we can still see people doing maintenance on the various shacks inside within Gatetown, showing that they still know they'll be here for quite a long time. Now we've entered the Path of Glory, and its name is quite deceiving, as the reality is, when this place was ruled by Vafri, the Path of Glory was, in most situations, a place where he would enthrall, consume your Aether, or even simply imprison you because he felt like it. I assumed in order to gain entry to Eulmore and get on his good side, you had to offer him something that he deemed quite valuable to even be allowed within the walls. Not all is gloom though. Off to the side here, we could see a fisher enjoying his time to the fullest. He must not be after the legendary fish to be having that much happiness. And off to the distance, as well as when we're going all around Eulmore, you will see the derelicts, a series of many destroyed shipwrecks springing across the waterfront. All of these ships remain here as a relic of the past when the flood prevented all transport across the oceans. Even on this Path of Glory, you can still see people begging, showing that simply getting to this point is not enough to secure anything. Here we can see a giant chute of garbage spilling out of the side of Eulmore here, as well as a merchant peddling any valuables he finds within. I assume it's mostly trinkets, but I have to imagine the metals are the most valuable thing that he is finding from this wreckage. Here we can see a Talos as well, clearing the rubble presumably, though to what goal is hard to say. Over at these laundry clothes streams, we get a bit of funny dialogue with this Aura. She makes a remark about the laundry being too high. I wonder if this was just a simple dev joke where all the laundry streams were designed for one character's height and the Aura just happened to be way too short for the animation to really line up. We can also find this small water tap, which I like to assume provides the entirety of water for those outside of Eulmore. At least Vafri was somewhat kind. Over here we are approaching the Nightsoil Pots, which is an unfortunate name for this location, as this was a euphemism in the ye olden days of the 18th century. Back then, people had chamber pots that they would dump their waste into, and when these chamber pots were full, they would simply toss them out the window side. A night soil is a person who would come at night to collect and clean up all of this excrement, and usually would end up using it for fertilizer. Here you can find Daraldia provisioning various flora and flowers for the free citizens of Eulmore. And I assume on the side, providing medicinal uses for those who need it outside. Here we can see an adorable Mikote child. And if you stand here for a second, she will remark about the chickens swallowing pebbles. If you watched my recent Monster Hunter video on small monsters, I remarked about the Harpios may have been swallowing rocks as well. If you see creatures swallowing rocks, this is usually very much intentional. It is called a gastrolith, or sometimes referred to as a stomach stone, and various birds as well as many kinds of animals will swallow rocks in order to help their digestion in their gastro tracts. As we go throughout the perimeter of Eulmore, you'll notice that instead of these wooden, more permanent shacks, we instead have various tents sprawled about, as if everyone here is hoping that they will not have to stay very long before they were able to enter Eulmore when Vafri was ruling. Another person and their chickens. She, in particular, does not want to eat these chickens. I guess she has found some sort of camaraderie among them, which who doesn't like their pets? If you look down from this derelict ship, you can peer into a kitchen, and we will be heading down there in a moment. Even as the night reaches over Nordpint, it turns out these guys are still having their little fight club. I guess they just really like beating each other up. And now we can see what was once a ship has now been turned into a makeshift kitchen for many people to come and eat. Having this sense of community, even in their hard times, really shows how much they care about each other, even if they choose not to show it sometimes. These guards have really cool helmets. They have a visor function to them as well. And if you think they're hard to see out of, well, some of the guards agree with this notion. Now we will be entering Eulmore, starting with the Joyous Hall and its many chambers. As we go through here, we will be passing through the many immigration chambers within. I have a feeling someone on the dev team had some experience with immigration at some points, as they're quite detailed in how they go into the process. Even with the end of the flood and the ruler Vafri being dethroned, there are still many citizens within Eulmore who do not agree with these notions. And you can see this pompous lady still bossing around her butler as she goes about the halls. Some things can just be too difficult for others to let go of, even if they are in the wrong. Here we can see the Delusory Chambers, a very odd name for a shower room. It means deceptive. I guess the only thing that would be deceptive is if you didn't know what RP players were doing in these halls. I wanted to remark about these marble floors. They're a bit of a old grandma gaudy style to them, but I personally find them appealing. Something I would most definitely want in a room, though to a minimized degree. In a few videos, I've had people about how sometimes the game just looks incredible with its lighting, often thinking I'm using a reshade or something. But nope, this is vanilla. And sometimes the lighting, like in these stairwells, just has this right touch to it that makes it outstanding looking. On the side here, we can peer into the Eulmorean Army headquarters. We'll be stepping into here, and you'll be able to see the various cells that were used for prisoners, storage, and other nefarious things when Vafri ruled. This place has kind of became liminal in due time, due to the player almost having zero reason to ever come back here, unless they wanted to pick up the few side quests in this location. There won't be much to remark about as we head our way down, so just enjoy the views. For some reason, they decided to put a clan's nut board down here for hunt bounties. I don't know why they decided to put it here. It's very out of the way from everything else in this city-state. At least the locations that you would be frequenting within here. Now we will be making our way to the Canopy, the location that most people are familiar with when they think Eulmore. Definitely one of the more pretty aetheryte plazas we have gotten, though the music can be a little exhausting at times. In the back here, you can see various palms. In fact, these palm trees can be found in Limsa Lamensa. These statues holding up, quote unquote, these pillars can be found in the trash pile on the lower shelf we were at before. Now we are entering the Grand Dame's Parlor. They do a really good job of selling this place in its aesthetics. Particularly the water fountain in the center really catches the eye. Now we will be entering the Honeybee Inn, the Beehive. Okay, that's enough of this place. I think you are all very familiar with this location. When I was originally routing this, I planned to walk to the Crystarium, but it turns out you come here via boat. So I decided that going directly through airship would give a better contingency versus walking all the way back down through Eulmore. Originally, when I was making this video, I intended this video to be about Shadowbringers as a whole, but it turns out almost all the locations are segmented. I assume this was because since this area is supposed to represent the entirety of the first, they wanted it to feel like a grander scale. So the transition between various areas is often by airship, boats, or other various means, and never really a place where you walk through to a different zone. While this does a good job of making everything have a grander scale, it also gives a bit of a disconnect of the world. I feel it would have been a much better feeling if it was even just the size of Aldenard. Fog is one of my favorite weathers, both in this game and real life. If you ever get the chance to go to Gridania during the fog, I'd recommend it. But don't worry, the fog will clear just at the right time. Out in the distance here, you can see many towers that serve as just as many functions as you would think, from living to workshops, even places where weaponry is stored. It really much is an extension of the Crystarium to show you the believability that there are locations out of your reach that people are going on about their lives within the Crystarium. Another place that does this very well is Ishgard. Don't worry, I went out of my way to go visit the blue-palmed mogs of Nordvance. I couldn't leave you hanging without a few mog noises. Now we're going to make our way down to the Crystalline Mean, a variety of various workshops for crafters and gatherers. If you look just beyond, you can see even a bunch of workshops the player does not have access to, showing that it's not just the players working here, but also the citizens. Oh, sorry to disturb you, Luigi. You can see a little fish nursery. Many details scattered throughout this workshop brings it all together in a nice package. Here in the distance, we can see both the Emerald Keep and a tree bursting through the Trivium. This tree, as we'll see when we go down there, allows weather to pass through it. It creates this nice little visual effect to everything. We can take a peek into the Apiarite Plaza. This guy right here. See this guy? He dropped his sandwich. And no, I'm not going to craft him a new sandwich. They can figure it out themselves. Now we are entering the upper walkways of the Quadrivium. While I myself am not a person particularly afraid of heights, there's something about having a transparent floor below you that is a little unsettling, even if you know it is a very secure location. It's a shame we don't have much reason to utilize these upper walkways, though they make for a nice hangout spot regardless. Off to the side here is the Pendants, which also includes the Warrior of Light's Innkeep, and that will end up being our final location. Over here in the Catenaries, there's are a few side rooms the player can enter that we will briefly be exploring. After such, we're going to make our way to the Ocular, so just enjoy the view. The emotions in this chamber that you'll get from after you beat both Shadowbringers as well as Endwalker are strong in here and nostalgic in the best of ways. you can still go, you can still travel through here all the way back to Eorzea, which will dump you out in Mordona. Over here we can see various weapons, likely used to fight against the various sin eaters scattered throughout Nordvent. Considering how large these weapons are, I wonder if there were that many large void scents they had to fend off, or were these more like artillery weapons instead? Alchemy lovers, you might want to wake up for this one. We are heading to the Spagyrics, named after a method developed by Paracelsus, a medicine revolutionist who brought many techniques to people within the fields of medicine. Though nowadays, and probably for a few good reasons, this has become an alternative medicine. Now we have arrived at the Trivium. We'll first be heading over to the Cabinet of Curiosity. This library feels like something straight out of a high fantasy novel, or maybe even a FromSoft game. For some reason, this little stair guard here lets you climb on top of it. It just has collision. Just seems like one of those things the devs wouldn't allow you to climb on, but they do. Now we're gonna go take a look around and we will reconvene at the Hortorium. Back at the Hortorium, we're immediately greeted with this dockyard, which seems odd at first, but given the various flora throughout the chamber here, I could see why they would want boats to help more easily research and maintain these plants. Here we can see the tree from earlier, and indeed it is raining under this tree. The people remark here about this tree, saying they aren't exactly sure what's going on with it, and much of the flora that they have brought here is still under research. Quite a few of the people around this pot talk about various fertilizers and how they're using them to help assist the flora. So I like to assume that in this pot, they are indeed brewing a fertilizer of sorts. Though if there is dialogue specifying what is in this pot, I have not found it. Here is the other Nutsy board. A lot more convenient than the one in Eulmore. And overlooking behind is the Temenos Rookery. These are mostly managed by the Zune, and there are all kinds of avian that you can find being raised here. Even Amuro that they seem to be training for battle here, much like a Chocobo. That would have been interesting if the devs at one point were planning Amuro to be an optional version of the Chocobo companions we have. I wasn't kidding when I said many types of avian. We got a little chicken hiding back here. We're gonna climb this tower to get a nice vista of the Crystal Tower, as well as the various rooftops of the Crystarium. I did say the rain was going to clear at the perfect time, and it very much did, giving us this gorgeous view of the city. Now we'll be taking a walk through some of the various farms and gardens that the Crystarium uses. Another adorable Makote kid. Okay, these apples are so huge. They're like the size of melons. Melon apple? Way out here, you come out for various quests, but they also provide a nice view, and there are many you can go out on as well. That's right. I came all the way out here so I could show you this floor. It's kind of cool. Okay, now let's go back to the normal tour. Please take a moment to appreciate this gate. The lanterns on it are structured into it. It is oddly complex. Now we have arrived at the Wandering Stairs, and if you did quite a few of the optional quests, you'll find many friends hanging out here. We are going to make a pass near some of the many stalls, but not to an exhaustive state, as there's not too much to see about them, though the decorum in some of them is rather interesting if you do want to take a closer look at them by yourself. I always like looking at these textures on all these various boards, whether it be the bounty boards or the marketplace boards. Something about them is rather fantasy feeling that I enjoy looking at. And our journey is almost over. We have arrived at the Pendants. Oh, hi there, friend. Just, pretend it's not there. And that'll do it for another Final Fantasy XIV walk-along. This time crossing from Eulmore all the way to the Crystarium. I hope you enjoyed this. I want to give a thank you to my member, as well as a thank you to everyone who watched. Up here, a video, over here video, down here, subscribe. Bye-bye. Bye.